Dear students, I welcome you back to the class of English Optional BA third year. In the previous class, we dealt with the life and works of Aristotle. Aristotle was a great Greek philosopher. He studied under great Greek philosopher Plato for 20 years. In the last class we saw that Aristotle taught Alexander the Great for 6 years. So he is remembered as the master of Alexander the Great. Aristotle wrote his world famous books such as Poetics, Rhetoric. Poetics deal with art of poetry and rhetoric deals with art of speech. Today we are going to study Aristotle's observation on poetry. While dealing with Plato, we came across Plato's observations on poetry. Plato denied place of poetry and poets in his ideal state. Though Aristotle was Plato's disciple, his observations on poetry are contrary to the observations of his master. It is believed that Aristotle wrote his book Poetics in order to reply Plato's attack on poetry. Plato attacked poetry, calling it false production or unreal production or harmful for the character building. Aristotle denied all the attacks of Plato on poetry. Aristotle's world famous book Poetics deals with nature of poetry, function of poetry, and emotional appeal of poetry. Aristotle observed poetry as the highest creative art. He feels that poetry tries to express the universal element in human nature and human life. Aristotle makes comparison between poetry and history. He says that poetry speaks about what may happen, whereas history speaks about what happened in the past. He says that poetry is universal. For instance, a poem written by a poet belonging to a particular country may be accepted and appreciated by the readers living in different countries of the world. So, poetry has universal acceptance. But it is not so in the case of history. History is confined to particular borders of the nation. Each country has its history, and this history may not be appreciated by the people living in other countries of the world. For instance, history of America may not be liked by the rival country or the people living in the rival country of America. Let us take another example. History of Europe may not be accepted or appreciated by the people living in other continents of the world, because the history speaks about the incidents which occurred in that particular territory or that particular continent. Therefore, Aristotle says poetry has universal nature. It is universal, whereas history is not universal. It is confined to particular land. Like Plato, Aristotle also calls poet as imitator. But observation of both is quite different. Aristotle differs Plato in the observation of poet and poetry. Plato feels that poetry is based on false, because for him idea existed in the nature is original, and the linguistic formulation of idea in the form of poetry is once removed from reality. But it is not so in the case of Aristotle. Aristotle says that poet imitates one of the three objects, such as things as they were or are, things as they are said or thought to be, things as they ought to be. According to Aristotle, poetry had its origin in four human instincts. They are the natural human instinct to imitate things, as we observe in the case of monkeys and children. The natural pleasure we get from a good work of imitation. It is for this reason that accurate imitation of even ugly objects give pleasure to the imitators and viewers. Learning or knowing something new is always a pleasure. It is for this reason that we derive pleasure from an imitation of an object we have never seen before, and our instinctive pleasure in harmony and rhythm. Poetry grew out of these natural causes, so it got its nature through these causes. The second point is function of poetry. Aristotle says the pleasure is the end of poetry. Like other fine arts, to please is the function of poetry. The important two human instincts, that is of imitation and of harmony and rhythm, are the origin of poetry. These two very reasons give pleasure to the poet and the reader also. In addition to it, Aristotle accepts that teaching as the function of poetry. Poetry not only gives pleasure to the readers, but also it teaches moral lessons. This observation of Aristotle is quite contradictory to the observation of Plato, as Plato opined about poetry that it is based on falsehood. It does not help to the readers to become moral. But here Aristotle says that poetry teaches moral things to the readers. He emphasizes on the major function of poetry has to give pleasure along with truth. But for him, pleasure is supreme function of poetry, because along with pleasure, it improves civic quality or civic morality among the readers. The third observation of Aristotle on poetry is poetry and its emotional appeal. Aristotle admits that poetry makes an immediate appeal to the emotions. Plato opined that poetry makes immediate appeal to the emotions of the readers, but Aristotle says tragedy is the highest form of poetry. His greatness lies in his finding out the real greatness and beauty of tragedy. In his theory of catharsis, he answers the charges of Plato against tragedy and also tells us why we rush to see or read a tragedy and why we always take it to be better than a comedy. Plato says that art corrupts by appealing not to the reason but to the emotions of the readers. It excites and nourishes the passions, so poetry is harmful. It is not worth to be given place in the ideal state. He says that poetry does not help for the growth of the mind. On the contrary, Aristotle has not such fear in his mind. Aristotle feels tragedy gives new knowledge and aesthetic satisfaction to the readers and viewers and produces a better state of mind. He adds, everybody has occasions of fear and pity in his or her life. When we witness such occasions in tragedy or any other kind of poetry, we become nobler than before. So the emotional appeal of poetry is not harmful, but health-giving and artistically satisfying. To conclude, Aristotle rejects Plato's allegations on poetry. Aristotle, in his observation on poetry, rejected Plato's whole theory that the emotions are in themselves bad. Particularly, he refused Plato's opinion that poetry produces a dangerous excess of those emotions in real life. Thus, Aristotle defends poetry from Plato's attack on it. So friends, this is how we have come across Aristotle's observation on poetry. He observes poetry from three grounds. The first one, he deals with the nature of poetry. Then he deals with the function of poetry. And lastly, he deals with poetry and its emotional appeal. And he refuses all the attacks and allegations made by Plato against poetry. So, with this, I would like to conclude Aristotle's observation on poetry. In the following class, we shall deal with another aspect, that is Aristotle's observation on tragedy, or how does Aristotle define tragedy, and we shall deal with his conception of tragedy in the light of his definition of tragedy. So with this, I would like to remain here. Thank you very much.